I got a great question from a student about how do teachers, instructors, professors know, at the beginning of a course who is going to be a great student and going to be successful and who isn't. And, when I was in undergrad, I actually sat in the course, and at that time, one of my professors has said, everyone in this class are great students and can come to me for a reference letter. But just remember that when you are emailing me, this is actually what I'm going to assess you on in my reference letter. Whenever I get a request from a student, I'll search them in my inbox to see if they had ever emailed me. And based on what you ever wrote to me, that's what I'm going to assess your personality on when it comes to the reference letter. And at that time, I thought this was such a weird approach. Because in my head, I was like, why would a professor, first of all, tell us that? Because that's such a silly approach in terms of kind of being able to know whether or not the student is a good student or not, because I think a lot of times students just ask them course-related questions. How can you possibly even know how great or how bad of a student this person is just by looking at what kind of questions they're asking you via email? And then fast forward, now I'm a prof, and I can say this is also the same approach I take. And here's why. So of course, a lot of times in my classes, I definitely try to profile my students, and I look at them on a few things, right? I see how punctual they are for class. Are they often the ones that are there? They're there early already? Are they often, there on time? Or are they usually, consistently late for my class? That's one thing. Another thing that I assess the student on is how confident are they as a student. And what I mean by that is how smart are they in my class, for example. And it's not just about their grades. Like, it's not about whether or not they got a 95 or an 80 or a 70. It's about how much do I think they think in my class? And this comes in the form of their assignments. Of course, this may be different if the course that you're taking is multiple choice based, but for my courses, they're assignment and project based. So what I would look at is, when I'm reading their assignment, do I think it is equality analysis? Do I think they really spent time to think this through, or do I think they haphazardly, completed the assignment right before the deadline and just, put together something so they can submit? And then also, if they have had any correspondence with me, for example, emails or discussion boards, do I think, they're very thoughtful and kind of thought things through before posting or emailing me? I think these things really add up, and these might be minute things to people, but but to me and to a lot of different professors, this is a way for us to kind of indicate whether or not a student is of high success or not. And also the timing of these correspondence also matters. It is you are definitely leaving a poor image of yourself to a prof if you're always consistently emailing with questions hours before an assignment is due or right before an assignment is due, because it shows that you're not very well organized. You're leaving things to the very last minute. And oftentimes in grad school, what employers look for, they want someone who can effectively time manage, right? They want to be able to say this person is very organized, they know what they're doing, they do it well in advance, they're not always rushing through things. And if you're always emailing me right before an assignment is due, hours before, the day before, on a weekend, then this is an indication that you're not that well organized and you don't really think of things until it's due and you have to do something. And then finally, I think a lot of students do kind of question, like, I'm not the most extroverted person. I don't often ask questions in class. Is this going to impact how I get reference letters? And the answer is no. I myself is also a very introverted person. I often don't ask questions in class, but I'm more the type to post online on discussion boards or in the Zoom chats, or to book one-on-one meetings with my profs, or email them separately with questions. So it's totally fine if you're not the type to ask questions in class, because that is not for sure it's not an indication of a high success versus low successor. Just because a student talks a lot in class or asks a lot of questions in class, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're leaving a good impression on the prof. And likewise, just because a student is not asking questions in class, it doesn't mean that they're a poor performer either. So for the most part, your prof will look at other things and not just how much you talk in a class. And of course, if you're a horrible presenter in class, then that may be a different story. But in general, what we look for is how you correspond to people, how thoughtful we think you are, how committed or a good student you are in a class. And this come from in the form of how you carry yourself in the class throughout the course, how much engagement you are doing the course, whether it be discussion boards or emails or questions, how thoughtful we think your assignments and questions are. And then finally, just our overall impression of you in terms of as a student, as a future employee. Are we confident to say that this person is excellent and that we absolutely recommend this person for hire or for admission, or do we recommend this person to not do such a thing because of X, Y, and Z reasons? I think in general, regular humans like me and you often kind of profile people. Even when I was a student, I definitely thought so-and-so is a great student. And even if I don't know what their actual marks are, I kind of have based that assessment based on several criteria: how they carry themselves, how they ask questions, how thoughtful or insightful they may appear to other people. And I think a very similar criteria applies when it comes from faculty kind of assessing their students. And we definitely have more access to data points in terms of, solidifying our impressions, because we do have access to your marks and your assignments and other correspondence that you may have with us.